Okay, we should be able to see the trailer. Yep. Alrighty. Okay. Seems like the trailer went away. Well, we don't need it. We were just saying hi. Oh, well, let's just get it started then. We don't really need a trailer. So, welcome everyone. Welcome to one more episode of DojoLIVE. We're broadcasting live from Mexico City offices of Nearsoft and also from our headquarters in Hermosillo, Sonora. That's way north for those of you who don't know where it is. Just okay. And today, needless to say, we have a very special guest, and I'm sure that a lot of you folks out there have at least heard her voice at some point, interacted with her, and maybe even try to talk back at her without any success. Okay, so that is the voice of Siri, and but the woman behind the voice of Siri today is Susan Bennett, and Susan is a voiceover artist and singer, and she was the MC of the 2013 Dallas Digital Summit, and most of you know her as the voice of Siri. Thank you for being here, Susan, with us today. It's really a pleasure. It's really an honor, and we look forward to our chat today with you.
Thank you, Carlos.
Absolutely.
What can we help you with?
Okay, there. You just started doing it.
Yeah, it's official.
Can't help it. You can't help it. Alrighty. Yes. Okay. Oh, by the way, we're also going to have two co-hosts, and my fellow teammates from Nearsoft, Tomás Ibarra and Pedro Rojas. Guys, really appreciate your being here. I know your participation is going to be very valuable. And Pedro is an iOS developer, and Tomás is a Rails developer, right? Am I right?
Yeah,
you're
right.
Great. So they're going to be covering. They have a specific interest in iOS development and such. So we'll talk about that later. But the good thing is that today we're going to be talking about a number of other things, and of course we're going to let Susan do the talking. We're not, and for the most part, we do have some questions for her, and also we like to encourage the audience to send us your questions by means of the Q&A prompt that's right there on our player. You know how to do it. Just click on that "Be Part of the Conversation," and it'll take you to our questions, question and answer window. Susan, tell us a little bit about. Let's just get it started. I mean, when you chose the topic, accidentally famous. Why the accidentally part? Would you care to tell us about it? How it all started, and then we'll bombard you with questions. Thank you, Susan.
The fun part about it is I don't really know how it started. The Siri portion, I started doing recordings through a phone messaging, a telephony company, and a text-to-speech company called Nuance. This was back in 2005. And this is true of all the original voices of Siri worldwide. We were doing these recordings thinking we were just doing more telephony, which, like phone messaging for phone systems. Technically, I guess you could say that's true, because Siri is still a phone in some way. But Siri's very different because she became a persona. And as a voice talent, we're usually invisible. And so when you do this type of phone messaging, people don't pay attention to the sound of the voice. They're busy listening to the information that you're giving out. But all of a sudden, when you become this persona and you're interacting with people, they learn your voice, they know your voice, and that had a big impact on all of the original series. And so consequently, that kind of explained what happened afterwards. But during the process, because we were recording these digital voices, many times we were auditioning without even knowing that we were doing it. In other words, Apple came in and went to Nuance to choose the voice. Now, I don't even know if that is true. I don't know if Apple chose the voice or if the creators of Siri chose the voice. There were 3 engineers who created Siri. It was not Apple. It was a man named Adam Cheyer, Tom Gruber, and Dag Kitlaus from Norway. Apple bought the app and developed it, but the original creators were the ones that came up with Siri. And it's my understanding that the man from Norway named Siri because in Norwegian, Siri means beautiful woman who guides you to victory.
Oh, interesting. That makes sense.
But
I didn't know that.
Either the original creators chose the voice or Apple chose the voice. I don't know, and I haven't read about it anywhere, so I don't know if anyone else knows either. Someone somewhere must know. So at some point in time, someone chose my voice, and I have to say, people say, why do you think they chose your voice? I think because it can sound sort of authoritative but pleasant at the same time and still be quite articulate. Because when you're providing information like that, you have to be clear in what you're saying. So hopefully that was a very, very long answer to your first question.
No, actually, that's perfect. Okay, and so one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, and as you probably know already because we talked about it briefly before we started the talk, was how, if you could, whatever you can tell us about how you made it all happen technically. I mean, I know that we talked about this briefly, but again, how did it all happen technically? What's your relationship with Apple, for example, or whoever created the app itself? Whatever you can tell us about how that connection was made, we really appreciate it.
Once again, I'm just guessing because I really didn't have any kind of interaction with any of the technological people. And Apple has not acknowledged any of us at any time. They're being completely silent about that. And I think it's true for all corporations that they like to have their virtual assistants be rather anonymous. So, let's see, I forgot what I was saying. I got distracted.
Yeah, so was I, so I really apologize. So, Tomas, let's just make sure that you mute yourself, okay?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, you were saying that there was really no direct work with the Apple's engineers or the technical side, right?
However, the process by which the Siri voice came about is very interesting. The text-to-speech recordings that were started in 2005, everyone says, well, oh, did you read all of the words in the dictionary? And I said, well, maybe eventually that's true, because we recorded for many, many months. But we read phrases and sentences that were created mostly for sound rather than content. So we had a lot of very strange phrases that we had to read. For instance, militia oi hallucinate, buckra okra ooze. You can see that a sentence like that makes no sense except for the different sound combinations that were within it. And afterwards, after these recordings are done, technicians, programmers, and computers, of course, go in and extract sounds from the recordings and reform them into new phrases and sentences. So it's really the programmers that determine what Siri says, not the voice behind it. So all of the original series and the new series just provided the voice, and it was up. The rest of it was up to the techie guys. So.
I see. So it's like, this is the way I understand it, is taking specific elements of your own voice to be used under, I don't know, guys, you help me out here because you're the engineers, but I assume that they're digitized, so to speak, and then they're converted into some kind of code that functions in a way that's on demand when as the app requests it. So, but let's get not too technical about that for now. Okay. So I would be more interested, Susan, in asking you, and let me go back to the beginning of this talk.
Okay.
You when we started out, you started out as Siri. So is this something that happens automatically? I mean, do you get so much in character that sometimes you get driven to actually act like Siri, talk like Siri in an automatic way? How has it affected your life? If whatever
Well,
you can tell us.
those are sort of two different questions. No, I really don't get that involved. What is surprising to people is when they hear my regular speaking voice, they go, "Really, she's Siri? That doesn't really sound like Siri." So I have to go, "What can I help you with?" And then they go, "Oh, there she is." So that's why I started off like that. In fact, there's a funny story associated with that. A
Yeah,
kid
please
came
share.
to the house for Halloween, and he said, "Well, all the neighbors say you're Siri." And I said, "Yes, I am." And he goes, "You don't sound like Siri." And I said, "How about now?" And he was very shocked. His jaw dropped, and he grabbed his candy and ran.
Okay.
So it is a very different sound, and I believe that that sound was not just my voice. They manipulated the voice afterwards because I have an interview on my website in which uh, I interview
Hmm.
Siri. And of course, I'm doing both voices. And my husband, who is an audio engineer, had to work on it to make it sound exactly like Siri. So
Hmm.
there was some audio manipulation going on there for sure.
Oh, I see. Yeah, well, of course, when you switch from your normal voice to the Siri voice, there is an I could definitely spot specific modulations and changes. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Digital manipulation makes a lot of sense. Guys, how about you guys? I believe that you have formulated some questions for Susan, right? So let's start with let's see, who wants to get a head start? Pedro, I think
Yes,
you have your questions, right?
yes, exactly.
Okay, go
Yes,
ahead,
Susan.
feast away. Go ahead, shoot.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for you, Susan. One of them is, for example, how did you know that your voice was in a device, an iPhone? Because well, you record that voice long time ago, almost 11 years, right? But if I remember exactly, when Siri started working was for iPhone 4S in 2011. Okay, so this is different from 7 years.
Right.
How uh, how was your reaction when when you saw an iPhone and you, oh, it's me?
Well, actually, a fellow voice actor emailed me and said, "Hey, we're playing around with this new iPhone. Isn't this you?" And so I went on the Apple site and listened and said, "Yes, that's me." What a surprise. Um, None of us knew that we had been chosen. And we were never employed specifically by Apple. And we were never compensated for use on all of those devices. We were only paid for the original recordings. So it's almost as if Apple were a separate thing from what we did.
Okay.
They utilized our voice, but we really didn't have much to do with that.
Oh, I see. So actually, that brings me another question. After your voice become Siri, uh, did you get any opportunity to collaborate with Apple directly, or?
No, no, Apple never acknowledged the original voices and really uh, never talked very much about Siri at all. However, I did make an appearance at a tech conference in Dallas,
Oh,
and I met the fabulous Steve Wozniak there.
oh, that's a
And
great guy.
yes, he's fabulous, and he's just brilliant and a very, very sweet man. And he acknowledged me as the voice of Siri. So I think that's as close as I'm going to get from Apple.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. So I guess Susan, I guess you can say it all goes back to Scansoft. Am I right?
Scansoft, yes.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about how the relationship with Scansoft was and what happened when you went to them?
Well, I actually worked through them. I worked through a company here in Atlanta that I still work for, do a
Hmm.
lot of telephony work for, and so it was kind of a collaborative thing between a company called GM Voices here in Atlanta and Scansoft, which became Nuance.
Mm-hmm.
And the process was that all the recordings were done. I did them in my home recording booth, and
Yeah, like for hours on end, right?
yeah, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for the original vocabulary in 2005,
Mm-hmm.
and then 4 months in 2011 and 12, doing updates for different. I think it was probably the GPS portion of the system.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So that I would imagine that it was kind of an exhausting part of your life because it took a lot of hours and reading phrases, sentences. So it it must have been exhausting. Now, and were you acquainted or were you familiar with the way that the recordings were concatenated?
No, it was brand new at that time for me. I had done some work before that with a company called Lucent Technologies.
Uh-huh.
That was really interesting work because that was the very beginning, and that was in the early 2000s. And that was the beginning of this text-to-speech stuff. And I actually had to wear a little belt or a little necklace or right across my vocal cords so they could measure the sound and the vibrations coming from the vocal cords. And the director of that wasn't just an audio person, it was a linguist.
Mm-hmm.
It was a woman who I had to very carefully pronounce certain words so they could make sure it was clear enough to extract different vowels and, diphthongs and different vowel and consonant combinations. So that was really interesting. It was quite challenging. The work that I did for Nuance, it was especially the original vocabulary was very, very taxing because not only were we reading strange sounding sentences and phrases, but they all had to be read in the very same way each time. The same pace, the same pitch, the same tone, the same emphasis. It was quite monotonous. And each sentence and phrase had to be read very consistently.
Mm-hmm.
So that, for instance, we naturally talk like this. We'll go up and down and stuff like that. But reading for that type of thing, we would have to talk like this and not make any kind of emotional sounds or any kind of change in pitch. And that kind of thing is really tough on the vocal cords. It was very tiring. Yeah. Very tedious.
Yeah. A little bit robotic, if you ask me. It's like very well, but of course it's predictable because we're talking about technology here,
right.
So it is predictable, right? So that's how it has to be. Now let's go to. Let me go back to Tomas. Tomas, do you have any questions for Susan?
I have one actually.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Susan. I haven't
Hi.
introduced you.
Hola.
Hola. Do you ever imagine that one day your voice is gonna become part of a terrific device like it's an iPhone? Have you ever imagined that?
No, I really didn't. No, and that's one of the reasons that I call it accidentally famous, because I never really aspired to fame. That really it really did not have any interest for me. All I wanted to do was do a lot of work because I love what I do and have the respect of my peers, which
That's
I think
great.
I've mostly had. But yeah, so the fame thing hadn't occurred to me. Yeah.
No. Well, that's great actually.
Yeah, and also Susan, about this acknowledgement by Apple thing. I understand that there have to be some confirmation that it was actually you by some experts, audio forensic experts hired by CNN, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. When I decided to go ahead and reveal myself as the voice of Siri, I'd kind of kept it under wraps for a couple of years because I wasn't sure I wanted to lose my privacy. I wasn't sure what ramifications it would have, that revealing myself, because human beings have a tendency to stereotype people, and as a voice talent, we want to be able to do a lot of different types of jobs and have a lot of different kinds of voices like that. And if people think all you can do is in a quarter of a mile, make a left turn. You know, I mean, if that's, and so I think the tendency is for people to stereotype me as Siri, and so consequently, that took me, you know, I was worried about the effect it was going to have on my career. So it took a long time for me to reveal myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was quite a process.
Okay. And I'm just reading something that I specifically about you on, let's say, on the Daily Mail, and it was funny how you framed it. Is that when you were they're quoting you when you said if your phone is giving you attitude, it's because you were bored or something like that. So my question, based on this, I'd like to ask you, Susan, in any part of your work as the voice of Siri, have your own personal, let's say, moods or mood swings, or we're all human, we all have them. Has your work been affected by that, or not really?
Being affected by Siri, being the
No,
voice of Siri.
no, 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 no. I'm sorry. During all this work of recording, digitizing, concatenating, and everything that needs to be done in order for you to become the voice of Siri, and because it's a voice, it's an actual human voice, which is your own, have any of your personal, let's say, emotional states or moods affected your work when conveying the voice of Siri?
Well, you know, it's that's a difficult question to answer, because when I was doing the recordings, I didn't really know what I was doing. Now, when all of a sudden my voice became this persona, it was definitely very strange. I was used to hearing my voice on radio and TV commercials. I'm the voice of Delta Airlines gates worldwide. I'm used to hearing my voice in certain places. But it was very strange for my voice to be a part of this other character that people have really developed relationships with. I mean, people consider Siri a friend. And so that's a very, very strange thing. And people say, oh, do you talk to Siri? And I said, no, I talk to myself enough as it is.
Okay.
I like to joke around about Siri because people don't stop to think. All of the work and research and just incredible technological expertise that it took to develop this app that can not only recognize what you're saying, but immediately give you an answer to what you're asking. And they get very frustrated because many times Siri can't understand regional accents. And I explained to them, well, just stop and think for a minute. How many accents that you expect her to be able to recognize, you know? And I'm sure at some point in time that will be the case. But it's astounding that there is such a thing as Siri to begin with. It's an amazing technological achievement.
Yeah, of course. And I can relate to that because not long ago, I think a couple of years ago or something like that, I did. There were a lot of people who were asking Siri a specific question about the end of the world, if I recall correctly. It was like, Siri, when is the end of the world? And then Siri would be providing a specific answer, regardless of where the question came from. So it was like one of those curiosities of technology that we all at some point like to play around with, like something that you want to do, and like asking Siri something that you don't know what the answer is going to be, and then of course the topic of the accent came to my mind back then because of the I had the same device used by different people, and they were all asking questions with different accents, and they all get responses. So it was interesting to watch, by the way, how it all turned out to be. We have a question from the audience.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. The question is from another one of our fellow Nearsoftians, Hugo Ortiz. He's working remote right now, and let's see. The question is this: has your experience being the voice of Siri helped with new, exciting voiceover opportunities, even if not in the tech world?
Not really. I have been asked to do a lot of Siri-like voices. And so I was hoping that, you know, putting myself out there, so to speak, would open up some more voiceover opportunities. But because, as I spoke about before, people have a tendency to stereotype you, especially in this business. And so if, you know, now that I'm known as the voice of Siri, there are a lot of people think that that's all I can do. And so I'm working on that. But I have had a lot of really fun opportunities as a result of being the voice of Siri too. So there's definitely a positive side. I don't want to make it sound as if it's negative, completely negative.
I see. Okay, Susan. Well, I'm sorry. Thank you, Hugo, for your question. Oh, we have another one by the audience. Here we go. Let's see who is sending in this question. Again, oh, I'm sorry, it's Hugo Ortiz, the same person. Hugo is asking, can you tell us about the challenges you find in working as a voiceover artist? For example, how different was it doing the voice of Siri versus, I don't know, more standard work?
Well, as I mentioned before, doing the voice of Siri was very, very tedious and very, very difficult on the vocal cords because of the way I had to read the sentences. And the initial recordings were 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, which was very taxing, and I didn't really have time or the energy to do much other than that particular work. So, in fact, Nuance had wanted to put me under contract for another 5 years, and I just, I asked for a ridiculous amount of money, so they said no.
That's the way to go.
Exactly.
You test them, right?
Something really, really difficult or not particularly fun at this point of the game. Yeah.
Right. So I guess they're gonna stick to Dragon or something like that. The Nuance is the company who created Dragon, if I recall correctly.
They're the biggest text-to-speech company in the world.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. Let me go back to you guys, Tomás, Pedro.
Hi.
How are you doing with your questions? You got a list ready? And also, of course, the audience, please, by all means, send us yours.
So,
okay, who's first?
You wanna go, Pedro, or?
I will say first.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Hey, go ahead, Pedro.
Okay, Susan, I have a very interesting question. I would like to know your thoughts about that. You know, you mentioned before, you know that Siri recognizes your voice. Okay, a lot of accents or languages. Okay, but do you know that these voices are processed into the Apple servers? Okay, what do you think about the privacy of your voice or your speaking? I mean, for example, even right now, I don't know if it's the newer iPhones has the feature to stay always on, hearing your voice to activate Siri automatically. Okay, so tell me, just what you think about that.
Well, I don't know. I kind of have a bit of a love-hate relationship with technology. But as far as I no longer have to worry about that for myself as far as the iPhone is concerned, because starting with the OS 7 system, Apple changed all of the original voices. So it's no longer my voice on the iPhone 6. I've been in touch with some other original Siris, and in other countries, a lot of the original Siri voices were male. At this point, starting with the OS 7, because none of the original Siris had non-disclosure agreements with Apple, we were promoting the fact that we were, that voice, because it was a very flattering and a very positive thing to have had our voices chosen for that. And so we believe that is the reason. Once again, I'm guessing, because I don't believe we'll ever find out. But Apple changed all of the voices with the OS 7 system. And they chose someone whose voice is similar enough to mine that most people don't notice the difference. But of course, I hear it immediately.
Okay. Yes, I have another question. You know that before Siri, okay, we had only common voice programs, okay? Just call mom or start application, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
After Siri, right now we have obviously Siri. We have Google now that is very powerful, and also Cortana for Windows and other platforms. Okay, the competition is really, really strong right now. What is your vision about these natural languages processing systems for the next 10 years, for example? How do you think these technologies will grow up?
Well, I think they will keep perfecting them. I mean, already you can hear a difference between just the smoothness, the flow of the speech of virtual assistants, as opposed to, when Siri first showed up in 2011. It's already smoother. It's not as bumpy, and that's just a progression in the concatenation process, I believe. Because if you think back 10 years ago to the original concatenated voices, they sounded like this. They sounded very robotic and very non-human, and it's
Yes.
not a voice that you would want to interact with either.
Mhm.
And so that's why the original Siri was so iconic, because she was the first concatenated voice to sound pretty human. I mean, she still had some bumps. She did. It's going to be interesting to see how long it takes for them to really get, the algorithm such that the voice does sound really human. So
Yeah.
I bet they'll do it. I don't know how long it will take, but I bet they'll do it.
Probably people will fall in love with devices. For example, Raj Kutrapali from the Big Bang Theory.
Exactly, because then if you have a fight, you just turn it off, right?
Yes.
Unlike with the humans, right?
Definitely.
Thank you.
It's like the equivalent, and I'll say this as from my standpoint as an artist. I mean, I'm an artist. I do illustration work, so it's like the difference between working with a paper and a pen, and a marker, like, as opposed to working with a Wacom digitizing tablet. It's okay.
Right.
I mean, it's the same kind of work. There's creativity involved, but then again, the tools. I mean, I'm not gonna talk against technology, of course, because it's very convenient. But that little something that should
Yes, it's
not be
missing
lost.
the organic. It's missing the organic part. And
Yes.
you had asked earlier about the voiceover business. I've been doing this long enough that I've just seen an absolute revolution that was caused by technology. And because voiceover is a lot of fun to do, and you get paid pretty well for, not a very long period of time sometimes, everyone's getting into it. And because of the technology, everyone can. And you can even have your own recording studio if you have an iPhone, a little mixer face amp, and a mixer rather, and microphone. Put yourself in a closet, and there you have a voiceover booth. So technology has changed it dramatically, and in a way, it's it's definitely gone more to the machine sound to me. It's not as organic as it was,
Hmm.
and especially, for instance, many times it's now in the hands of the engineers as opposed to the creative people and the actors, because we used to get together and work all together in a studio, and now we're all in our own little home booths, and so it's up to the engineer to pick the takes of whatever recordings are being done and assemble them, as opposed to if you're in the studio and you're doing a dialogue with someone, it's much more natural. The pacing and the rhythms are much more natural, and also there's a possibility for improvisation, when you're working with another person face to face, as opposed to segregated in a little booth. So yeah, I think we have to be careful that we don't lose completely the organic aspect of what we do.
Okay, thank you, Susan. We have another question by the audience, and this is from another one of my fellow near Softians, Carolina Gonzalez, in way over there in Hermosillo. Carolina is asking you, what about your musical career? How did you start your career? And she's wondering if you have met Cortana.
No, no, I've not met Cortana. No, I've not met anyone else. Musically, I started playing the piano by ear at the age of 4, and then I took piano lessons for many years. I started singing in high school and college, and in college I got involved in a jazz band and started working professionally. And from there I've just been in all kinds of bands for the last many years. And Siri wouldn't be here if it weren't for my musical career, because, I mean, the original voice of Siri, that was me, would not have happened had I not been a singer in the studios in Atlanta, because we were singing a jingle one day, and the voiceover talent didn't show up. So the owner of the studio said, "Susan, you don't have an accent. Come over here and read this copy." And so I read it, and I said, "Oh, I can do this." So I got some voice coaching and found an agent and started working, and I've been working ever since. So,
Okay.
So music's been very good to me.
Of course. There's some folks here who are asking me to ask you to sing for us, but I'm not going to do that. Okay. That would be, I mean, unless you're really in for it, but that would be like a cliche, right? Okay. There's something else. Okay, here we have another question by the audience. This is from Rafael Manrique. And Rafael is asking you, what changed in your life after recording the voice of Siri? It's a very open, general question. What changed in your life?
Well,
if anything.
Oh, it definitely changed. Well, there was a long period of time where I just had to get used to the idea, as I explained. I tend to be a bit of an introvert, and I had absolutely no intention of being famous. But then this turned out to be such a unique and iconic thing, and such an unusual experience and opportunity, that my husband and son were very effective in convincing me to reveal myself as the voice. And then after I did that, I started doing some really fun things. And getting back into that, the very first thing that I did was contact a woman that I knew at CNN.com, and ended up doing the first interview with her. And then CNN decided it was a pretty big story. That's when they brought in the forensic audiologist, because they needed proof that it was me, and he said, "Yep, 100%, that's Susan." So.
Okay. Hey, thank you again, Susan. I'm sorry if I get distracted momentarily, but I'm reading all the questions that are coming in. Yeah, and I don't want to miss them, so that we can read them off to you.
Okay.
Okay, and I know that there's a lot of questions about Siri, because that's the first reason that we're here is because of, the initial reason why we're here is because of your being the voice of Siri. But of course, there's also the woman. There's Susan Bennett. So we want to ask you questions about Susan Bennett. But before we go fully into that, we have one more question by the audience, by Cesar Terrazas. He's in one of our offices in Chihuahua. And Cesar is asking you, have you ever seen the movie Her? In that movie, the lonely main character develops a relationship with the voice of the operating system.
Right.
So what's your opinion about that?
Well,
if you have any.
Personally, it's really hard to say. I personally find it rather horrifying, but I will have to say that one nice thing about these digital personas is they're really, really helpful to people who have problems in life, such as blindness. And I know that a lot of autistic children just love Siri and are really able to communicate things to her in a pretty human way, because she she's not a human. She's not standing there staring you in the face, you know, so they can communicate with her. So she's really, really positive in a lot of ways. You know, I'm sure that all of these giant corporations are heading towards artificial intelligence. That seems to be the way where we're going. And I'm really not sure how I feel about that. You know, because a person of my generation, we did not grow up with computers, you know, and so they aren't just something we take for granted. They're not something that we're, you know, as comfortable with as, you know, the millennials. So, you know, that would have an effect on how I feel about it.
Excellent. Great. Let's see, we have something else. Okay. Yeah, this is also another one from Carolina. Carolina, thank you. Your questions are great, Carolina, because she's a... I am aligned with her because I want to ask you more about Susan and not about Siri. And in that sense, Susan, if I may, I'd like to ask you, you've done Siri, but let's put Siri away for a moment. Now, what's your favorite project in life? What's in store for you? What's next? What are you looking forward to in terms of you becoming either, I don't know, the new version of Siri or not Siri? What's your favorite project right now, the most appealing to you?
Well, I really love all the voiceover work that I do. I like the fact that every day is a different day. I don't have any specific goal as far as that's concerned. And musically, I'm playing in a band with my husband called Boomers Gone Wild, and we play nothing but 60s and 70s rock and soul music.
Oh, okay.
And we have the absolute best time. So, you know, I'm in a really wonderful place in my life, knock on wood, and so, you know, I don't have any specific goal to, like, be another type of virtual assistant or anything like that. You know, I think being the original voice of Siri has been a really interesting thing and continues to be an interesting thing. And as musically, you know, I really would just love to do more of what I'm already doing. So I guess I'm very fortunate.
Great. Yeah, I think definitely you are, based on everything you're sharing with us today. Ever thought about acting, like, you know, on camera?
Yes, I've done that before. Yeah.
Oh, really? Tell us about it.
Well, I mostly did a lot of commercial acting because of just, you know, my appearance. You get, you know, we talked about stereotyping, and of course you're going to be stereotyped by your appearance. So I always had to play, you know, the office manager or the, you know, the woman in charge or something. So I did a lot of that kind of work, and a lot of corporate videos and that sort of thing. So I've had a very interesting life, and musically, years ago I toured the world with Roy Orbison. I don't know if you're familiar with him. I guess he was one of the early rock and roll guys, and I think is probably considered somewhat of a country.
He's a Pretty Woman thing? Singer?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
Pretty
yes.
Woman walking down the street.
That's right.
Yeah.
Also Burt Bacharach. I toured with him. And so I've had a really fascinating and fun life. I really have. And very.
What'd you do with Roy Orbison?
I sang backup vocals. I was one of 2 female backup vocals. There was 1 male as well. And I sang, you know, in the band with him when he toured all over the world.
Okay, excellent. Susan, now that you're telling me all these things, telling us all these things, is there anything that you haven't done that you would like to do? For example, let me just give you an example. I don't know if it's the case, just for the record, but I'm just assuming. Is there something else that you would like to do, like lending your voice to, I don't know, maybe puppets, puppet shows, or cartoons, or movie dubbing, you know, things like that?
Yeah, I'd love to be a cartoon. Yeah.
I'd really love to be a cartoon. I think it would be fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah, of course.
I'd like to be the evil queen.
Excellent.
Yeah, a lot of voice talent, you know, have more than one voice, and at least in the past, because we're all freelancers, and so consequently, we never know what we're going to be doing next. And so if we have a lot of voices that we're able to do, that gives us a better chance of booking a job.
Of course, yes. Okay, Susan, we're okay, and guys, also we're approaching the final the final 10 minutes of our talk. Yep. So think of any questions that might be lying around that you haven't asked, and while you do that, there's something that I'd like to mention, Susan, or bring up or talk about. And this is, again, let me go back to something that happened with CNN, which I think it would be interesting, is you revealed it seems like you revealed your identity during an interview with CNN that was unrelated to Siri or Apple. And also you say that you didn't take it lightly. Why is this?
I'm not sure what you're referring to. Are you referring to the original interview with CNN?
With CNN, yes.
Yeah.
It seems like, and based on based on what I'm reading off the Daily Mail and from the UK, it seems that that's what it says. The article says is that you didn't take it lightly. Why was this, Susan?
Being the voice of Siri.
About revealing your identity during the interview that was unrelated to Siri or Apple.
Oh. Well, I think I'd sort of explained that. It had to do with my voiceover career.
Oh, okay, excellent. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. I was like a little fuzzy in my head.
Yeah.
Okay, appreciate that. Let's see. Okay, you guys are ready with your questions? We are approaching the final, or even the audience. If there's anyone there that wants to send us their questions, please, by all means. Now is the time.
By the way, I have another question for you, Susan.
Okay.
Well, you know that Carlos asked you before what are your projects right now, okay? But I would like to know, besides of Siri, because I think you are really proud of that, do you have any other project that you made in the past and that you feel really proud of?
Well, to tell you the truth, I feel pretty good about most of the work that I've done, particularly different narrations that I've done and different commercials that I've done. Oh. And in the past, there was a production company in Atlanta called Cat's Paw, and they were very, very creative. They did a lot of really strange and funny things. And I jokingly say that probably the highlight of my career was being the singing chicken for a company called Zeneca Agricultural Products. So, that was probably the highlight of my career.
That's great.
I'm kidding, of course, but that sort of thing was really funny and really fun to do.
I don't know why, but I am under the impression that there are other highlights of your career. For example, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you have talked or interacted with Martin Scorsese. Am I right?
Well, I appeared on a lot of Apple commercials and spoke with Martin Scorsese and John Malkovich, Zooey Deschanel, Samuel L. Jackson.
There you go.
That was all part of the Apple, the initial Apple commercials that came out in 2011.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when I read that Martin Scorsese part, I just turned green with envy for some reason.
Oh well, I wasn't there. It was just my voice. They took my voice from the iPhone. I didn't get to participate or meet any of these people. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that was just the digital me.
Okay, I thought you had coffee with him or something.
No, I wish.
Yeah, don't we all? Okay, Susan, another question by Ana Lucia Reynoso. She's another one of our fellow Nersoftians. Susan, hold on one second. You've had a fascinating life. What advice do you have on pursuing your dreams?
I think the advice I would have to people is don't be as cautious as I was. I think I was very cautious in my life. So go ahead and take the chance, because if you have a chance, grab it. And have a backup plan, because we all have to make a living. But I think that people that do end up fulfilling their goals and their dreams are people that never give up. So I don't have anything really new to say, except just if you really, really, really want something, if you stick with it, you'll probably get it. So
there you have it, folks.
Yeah, there it is.
There it is. Susan, is there anything we haven't asked that you'd like to share with us today before we go?
Wow. Gosh. Yeah, I do want to tell you that Siri has an amazing sense of humor, and Steve Jobs had a lot to do with that. And there are a lot of little
That's surprising.
what they would call Easter eggs in Siri.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask Siri the meaning of life, more often than not she will say 42, which seems to have no meaning whatsoever, but it's a reference to a book called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which started off as a BBC radio show and became a movie, and it was something that Steve Jobs really liked. And there are other things, other Easter eggs in there too. And a lot of times people will say to me, well, I don't understand why Siri she sends me in the wrong direction, or she gives me the wrong answer. And I said, she does that on purpose. She's got kind of a wicked sense of humor.
Talk about wicked, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's finally. I'd like to ask Siri something, and I was hoping that Siri would get me a response.
Okay, let's see. I'll see if I can channel Siri for you. Okay, all right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, here's my question. Siri, what's next for Susan Bennett?
I really can't say, Carlos. It's a giant secret.
Okay. It doesn't get any more straightforward than that, right?
Yeah.
I just love that. Okay. Alrighty then. Well, we're approaching the last couple of minutes of our talk today, and I really, really want to thank again Susan for having agreed to be here with us today, and having opened up a little slot in your calendar for us. I mean, I'm sure that all the folks who are viewing us are going to be appreciative of that, and also I want to thank my fellow Nersoftians right here, Pedro and Tomas. Guys, you were great. And Susan, we're gonna be sending you one of these as a token of appreciation, along with other little things that we have in store.
Oh, muchas gracias.
Of course, yeah. And there's a very little else for me to say other than a huge, huge thank you. Again, you had no idea how many people were waiting for this and will be watching this eventually because it's going to be uploaded to our channel. So you and I are going to be in touch for this, and then that's it. That's it, folks.
Muchas gracias, Carlos, Pedro, Tomás.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
It's a pleasure, Susan.
Muchas gracias, Susan, and a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart. This has been great.
De nada.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. We still have 3 minutes left.
I have a little request actually.
Hold on 1 second. Just give me 1 second here because I mean these are non-stop. One more, real quick, before we go. Okay, I was just.
Okay.
This is just like the little extra that the singers give to their audience once they leave the stage, and then they come back and they like play one more song or that that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So here,
encore.
yeah, right here it is. Rafael Manrique again. I was just listening to recordings available at and the he wants to congratulate you. He says, listening to your recordings available at Rick and Us and Duo.
Oh, Rick and Susan Duo.
Rick and Susan Duo.
Well, wait a minute. It's just that I'm not wearing my glasses. Rick
Yeah, Rick and Susan Duo.
Okay.
But you can find there's another band called Siri Sings. The Siri Sings band, and you can see some of that on YouTube.
What's the name?
Siri Sings.
Sings. Just like this? I mean, Siri sings?
Siri Sings, see?
Okay. Would Siri sing something for us or not?
Yeah.
We have to bribe her? Not today. We're going to
thing that would be appropriate for Siri.
Of course. Okay. Well, and thank you for the Rafael for the congratulating Susan here. And guys, anything else before we go? We're about to wrap up.
I have a little request actually.
Oh,
and
there you go. That's up to Susan to agree or not.
Yep. If you want, Susan, can you like saying hello, but in the voice of Siri to us, but in Spanish?
Oh, sí, sí, por supuesto. Estoy contenta de hablar español contigo. Y
That's great.
muchas gracias por esta entrevista. La disfruté mucho.
Very
That's
nice.
That's great.
Listo. Thank you so much.
Thank you
again.
so much.
Not the Siri voice in Spanish.
We wish we had more of those. Definitely. Okay. Well, Susan, thank you so much. You were very
Thank you so
kind.
much.
You're great, and we'll be in touch for your tokens of appreciation.
Excelente, gracias.
Okay. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Have a great day. We'll talk soon.
Ciao.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.
Ciao.
Ciao.